What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Matthew McConaughey film, White Boy Rick. White Boy Rick is directed by Yann Diamanga, stars Matthew McConaughey, Richie Merritt, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. The film primarily focuses on a father and son played by Matthew McConaughey and Richie Merritt, respectively, and it focuses in on basically their family dynamic and what they have to do to get by. Matthew McConaughey's character will sometimes purchase guns, and he's sort of like a pseudo arms dealer. He does technically have a license, so he is legally allowed to sell these weapons, but he sells them to some unsavory people sometimes. And when Ricky, his son, the title character, White Boy Rick, gets mixed in with one of these groups of basically like drug dealers and murderers because of the fact that he went to sell them weapons and he becomes an informant for the FBI, and all of these things begin to happen in their life, it begins to break down their family, but also make them make very difficult decisions as to how they should move forward. The plot of this film, I think, is extremely intriguing. It's one that I think struggles at certain times, and I'll talk about where it struggles later, but overall, the story is so interesting that some kid who was literally 15 years old when he was approached by the FBI to be an informant on different drug lords that existed in the city of Detroit in the 1980s is just insane, because what we see in this film, obviously, you can never take it at face value. You always have to assume that some things are embellished and some things are left out in a Hollywood film. But if the core truth of this is real, this story is absolutely engaging in every possible way, because it's unlike any other story I've ever seen in a film. Yann Diamanga does a very good job directing this film. This is his first American major motion picture that he's done. He's definitely done some very high-profile British films, but this is his first big American film, I would say. And I think he knocks it out of the park in the film. There's a lot of really beautiful tracking shots. He really captures the dilapidated aspect of the city of Detroit in this movie, and I think that works very well. Also, the aesthetic of the film is very fitting for the 1980s. All of these characters feel like they are very much placed in this. Their clothing matches. The way that they speak is very accurate. But by far the best thing about this film is the performances. Matthew McConaughey plays this very loving but down on his luck father who clearly loves his children and will do anything for them, but because of that, he has to do some, as I said previously, unsavory things to provide for his family, and I think that that comes through so beautifully in his performance. Matthew McConaughey, to me, kind of steals a couple very important scenes in this film with just how fantastic he is. The ending of this movie, he is just mind-blowingly good in that scene, as is Richie Merritt, but overall, Matthew McConaughey is so good. And then to get to Richie Merritt, who, holy shit, gives a great performance in this film, and the fact that this kid, who was 15 when he was casted for this role, had never acted before, is insane. It's always so impressive to me to see someone who is basically an untrained actor up until the point they get casted. Obviously, they take training after that. But up until that point, he just walked to school one day and saw a sign that said that there was auditions, so he thought he would go, and then he ended up getting this part. He didn't even know who Matthew McConaughey was when he took this role, which is bonkers. But he gives a great performance in this movie. He feels like this character, and I think that that's a very key thing with this film. Casting an unknown actor in a role like this is sometimes very important. You get a high-profile name like a Matthew McConaughey, but if you put a high-profile young actor there as well, it just kind of feels like a movie where you're going for the star power. But because they went for an unknown actor, he fully embodies this role entirely. He is White Boy Rick in this film, and it is amazing to watch. He has so much of raw emotion throughout it, and his performance feels so grounded and so real. My two main issues with the film basically revolve around the storytelling. So this movie takes place over a 4-year span of time, but this film is only an hour and 45 minutes long, so that's a lot to cram in a very short amount of time, and I think because of that, the film rushes a lot. It's constantly moving forward, which is normally a good thing, but it's moving too fast, as if it's leaving behind things that would be good to know, or it's leaving behind scenes that could have existed that would have lended itself to even more character development and adding more things to this extremely interesting story. So I think the fact that they went for the shorter runtime, really held back the true, like, epic proportions that this film could have gotten to if it would have decided to go just like a half hour longer. Now, that's not to say the film was boring. As I said, it's constantly moving forward, so you're never bored. It's a very kinetic film, but I think the fact that it is so short and it covers so much time makes it so I kind of wish that there was some more time. I wish this film went another half hour, which is something you rarely hear. Most people are like, you know, get me the info and get it over with. But with this, I really enjoyed the characters in this film, and I would have liked to see more about their dynamic with one another and how different things changed over time rather than sort of rushing by the end of the film. And then my other issue with that also kind of goes along with the end of the film. This movie, at its core, obviously has its own opinions of the world and the message that it's trying to send. And there are multiple messages throughout this film, but I think one of the key ones is the criminal justice system in the United States, and really specifically the abuse of power of law enforcement. Because this movie focuses very much on their treatment of people in this film that are all from a lower class. They all are, you know, struggling to get by. They're doing illegal things to pay their bills, stuff like that. And the way that they abuse these people to the ends that they want rather than actually choosing to help these people. And I found that to be a very good message and very fitting for the film. But I think the fact that it had to rush so much made it so some of that message got a little lost by the time you got to the end, because it was trying to focus in on the family, which is what the movie is about, but that message gets lost in that because it didn't give itself enough time to focus on both. I'm gonna give White Boy Rick a B. I found this to be a very enjoyable movie, and while I think it struggled to conclusively state its message near the end and had some issues with rushing a little bit, the performances I think are just so fantastic that everyone should really go see this movie, because specifically Richie Merritt, being an untrained actor, is just so good in this movie. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of White Boy Rick, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.